Okay, in this mini lesson, we're going to do another ActionScript 3.0 file. This is going to be a walk cycle. So 006 walk cycle. And if you did the previous video called Stickman, I talked about how to animate the feet of a stick man across the screen. Of course, I kept it short. I didn't make it all the way across the screen. I just didn't want to spend all that time, especially you watching me do the repetitive task. And there's a good reason why usually you don't want to handle it that way. As long as you can handle the challenge, the technical challenge of understanding what I'm going to show you in this video, this is far superior. I just drew a circle and I held down shift when I drew the circle. That'll constrain it to a perfect circle. I'm going to make the line thickness like 5 or whatever, and just a silly little stick man. There we go. Now, instead of animating it across the screen the way I did before, it makes much more sense to do this. I'm going to select the guy, hold function. I'm going to hit FN F8 so it brings up the convert to symbol. I'll just say man or whatever. And now it's a symbol, so it's got the blue square around it. This timeline right here is the scene 1 timeline. It's like the root timeline. But if I go inside here, I just double clicked him. You can see now, man, this is actually a separate timeline than what's out here. Right now there's nothing on either one of them, so it doesn't look different, but we want to go inside this one. And inside here, we're inside the symbol, so you can actually see the graphic. When we're out in scene 1, we can't edit the graphic. We can't like delete, we can't erase. It'll look like you're erasing, but as soon as you let go, it's back. You can't also, I wouldn't be able to change the color of his head or anything like that. If I try to dump paint right there, it's not going to let it. You got to go inside the symbol down at the graphics layer. Now it'll let you do that sort of thing. Of course, I don't want to. But so that's just a little orientation on where you're at here. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to zoom in and we'll turn on onion skin again. And this is going to be just like what we did before. I'm going to hit FN F6 so it makes a separate, another photograph essentially. And I'm going to move, actually I am going to move it. I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to move this like this. It's going to be a little different than what we did before in the stickman assignment, because we're going to make him look like he's walking, kind of sliding his feet. Once we get this cycle finished, it'll make way more sense what we're doing, and you'll see how much less work it is to animate the guy across the screen. And because it's less work, you can actually have the patience to do a much better job. So if you learn these techniques, these, the machinery that Flash has built in, how to manipulate it to your advantage, you can actually save yourself a ton of work and therefore have the staying power to be willing to do a much better job, to do more detailed work. Because if you recall back to the Stickman video, I was getting impatient, and probably so were you if you tried it. So here's basically what we have now. If I press return, just hit enter, it's showing this. And if I hit command return, it will show you, it basically is looping. So that looks pretty good. Now all we have to do is scoot him across the screen. So let's go back out to scene 1, and you'll notice when we leave this timeline, just as I said, this is a different timeline. We're outside of this symbol. We're out in scene 1. So let's go to like the 100th keyframe, and or maybe 70. Let's go to 70. So I'm going to hit FN F6 and right click and say create classic tween, and then I'm going to move this guy. If I just move him that far, it's probably not going to be very good. It looks like he's walking on ice or something, which might be in some case what you're actually after. So if I move him a little further, maybe it'll look, yeah, that looks about right. And let's see, maybe I want him to stand. Yeah, this is a good point. Look in our library, we have this guy. If I drag him over here, actually that messes up the motion tween. Notice now, yeah, there's something wrong with what's happening there. You got to put him on his own layer. So I'm going to hit Command X to get him off of there. Now notice it fixes it. This will be the this will be the man. And then I'll make another layer, states. I'm going to make another layer called states, and up here, or actually maybe I'll do walk, and then I'll make another layer called stand. Normally I wouldn't do it this way, but I want to show you. I'm going to show you something. So just give me a second. Command Shift V will paste him, and I think I'll actually shrink that. I'll shrink it to like 50%, and I better not rotate him at all. So there he is. And if I hit Command Return, now notice he's sitting in place, because that's not the motion tweened object. This one is. This one is just the walkCycle. If I go back inside here, we're back inside, you know, the symbol where he's moving his feet. So what I want to do here now is I want to copy this, Command C, then I'll go up to this stand layer, and I'll hit Command Shift V, and now move them over, okay? So right now they're all the same. If I publish it, it's all the same. But here's the point. And this pays off if you want to make a duplicate. Like if I had tried to, I want to basically make this man on the right not walk. I want him to just stand there. And if I had tried to redraw him from scratch, I would have problems with the head not being the same size and lots of stuff like that. So, and this isn't even a very complicated character, but if you can imagine a real complicated looking character, I wouldn't want to have to redraw it from scratch. That is entirely not the way to do it. That's not the smart way to do it. So what I want to do is I want to go inside here and get rid of these frames so that he's not walking. But right now, if I do it to this guy, I'll do it to all of them. For example, if I change the color of his head, hold on, a different color. Why is that not? I guess I get the wrong. Yeah, let's do the ink bottle. Why is that not changing? Oh, I know. I've got the onion skin. It really is changing, but it's not changing the first frame. So let me undo that. What I was trying to do is alter the way this guy looks in this symbol, and it would show you in all the other ones, but I'm doing it on the second frame, so that's not going to work. Let me do it on the first frame. So let me get the ink bottle tool, and why is that not changing? Paint bucket tool. There. Okay. So you can see it changed all of them. And so I'm taking a long time to explain this point. What you need to do is go back out here where when you click on them, you can see the properties. It says man, instance of man. If I click on this one, it's instance of man. So what you want to do is right click and say duplicate, and we'll call it man standing. So now when I go inside here and I get rid of the walkCycle, it won't delete it from the other symbols. And now he looks identical because I duplicated him from that. I hope you followed all those steps. If I hit Command Enter now, you can see he's standing still and this one's walking. And right here we have a sort of combination. We're using this guy, but tweening him across the screen. right here on this layer. So that's why I almost wrote states when I was going to, because you want your character to be in different states. This is the standing state, this is the walking state, and now that we have those states, I've actually had my students at times make a whole bunch of different states ahead of time and then start really working on animating. Because what we might want to do, for example, is have him standing still for a moment. Let me show you what I mean. I'll grab this whole block of action and I'll move it over to the 25th frame, and now you see that he's not there in that first frame. So I'm going to click on this keyframe, hit copy, and then go over here and paste. And if you just hit paste, he might not end up in exactly the same place as he was when you copied him. But if you hit Command-Shift-V, he'll definitely be in exactly the same position. So now that's good, but there's a problem. If I publish it, he's walking in place before he starts moving. Well, now you right-click and say Swap Symbol, and you get the man standing, and now that means from here to here, it'll just be standing, and then suddenly he'll be walking when we get to that frame. So perfect, right? And I'm kind of taking a lot of time to explain these points because it's a tricky concept at first for some people. Some people might just catch on right away, but Flash has a lot of capacity for a lot of really cool things if you can wrap your head around the way it works. And the fact is, you can have symbols within symbols within symbols, and it's a very powerful feature, but it can be a challenge at times to keep track of where you are. If you think about symbol within a symbol within a symbol. For example, a character could have eyes that are blinking, and so each eye will have its own timeline where the eyes are occasionally blinking on their own independent timeline, and the face is on its own timeline also, where maybe every now and then the face is doing something and the eyes are blinking independently. All of those things are possible with Flash, and it's very powerful, very useful, but it's a challenge to get to wrap your head around it when you're first starting out, if you haven't ever used a program like it. So do a lot of practicing with the kind of techniques that I just showed you. For example, you might want to create another state where he's reaching down and picking something up off the ground. So that would be make another duplicate of this, set it right there, and animate him picking up something on the ground. Then you can use that state on the main timeline. And the only reason I have these up here are to try to illustrate this point. If we were actually trying to animate, we would just concentrate on this one line right here. But I often explained it this way, even to myself when I was first trying to master some of these techniques. I benefited highly from making them independent little symbols up here. All right, so hopefully that made sense, and you can expand on the ideas and have a lot of fun with it.